lobbying reform. We need to have where it's open, where it can be scrutinized by the public. And we are desperate for that, ladies and gentlemen. We are very desperate for lobbying reform. And if we don't get it, if we don't get lobbying reform, we're going to continue down this spiral path of where our democracy is just done. I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid to have to go through this every 4 years, where we know what we need, and it's this unprecedented access to government, and it's always been there, and always will be. It's just that now, as time goes on, it's more and more well hidden, because the media isn't looking at it like they should, and in some cases they're complicit with it. So that's what really bugs me, is the fact that there's so many people in the media who are complicit with it. But I digress. The second thing, we need an amendment to the Constitution to allow for campaign finance reform and limitations. The Citizens United Supreme Court decision has been the most destructive decision that we've had in this country in modern times, because it has taken politics away from the old school of debating ideas to where now it's basically how much money can you spend and how much on a media campaign, where there's no accountability for truth. I have said for many years we need independent, nonpartisan electoral commissions to run elections in this country, to get rid of gerrymandering, to set the districts according to traditional regional areas, to where there is as close to a fair balance of representation, to where every party at least has a theoretical shot to make every election contestable, theoretically, to where no candidate can be just considered safe. Do it like they do in England and Canada, and periodically review, say every 20 years or so, the boundaries, and in the next election you change the boundaries again, instead of every 10 years. Another thing, I'm all for free speech. But when you're blatantly lying to people, and it's obvious to people that know what you're talking about, that you're blatantly lying to people who don't have the time or the will or the skill to do the research and to find out that you're lying to them. Just having fact-check websites say, hey, this guy lied to him. Well, you see what Trump and his folks are doing. They're saying the fact checkers are automatically liberal. They're biased. Well, that's because there's no real punishment for lying in a political campaign. If I've been running for president and stated that Donald Trump sold us out to Russia, China, and everybody else for the highest, and produced fake evidence. Didn't produce fake evidence, but basically said that I have proof, but didn't produce any proof. And yet people bought into it. There's no penalty there right now. This goes for both parties. They both do it. The Republicans are just more blatant about it, because generally they know their policies aren't going to be as popular to the voters, so they concentrate on attack, and making themselves look tougher by attacking. And they know how to manipulate public opinion. That's been one of their strengths for a long, long time, is they know how to scare people. Now, if we had what they have in Britain, with I'm not sure exactly what the name of it is. I think it's Oxfam or Ozfam, whatever it is. Basically, what that is that it regulates advertising, regulates broadcasting to where you can't just simply make false claims and get away with it. There are penalties. You either have to fix the problem or you are penalized by fines or by being suspended from airing commercials or whatnot. It's an interesting thing about that rule in England is that it's actually done pretty good for themselves, but it's not perfect. There were blatant lies about Brexit, and I, in my humble opinion, think that it's going to come back to haunt Britain because they were lied to about Brexit. And in many ways, here's the reason I think that. The people that were behind Brexit are basically saying, well, we can't re-vote again because they don't have the confidence. And they feel like that they got away with it, and they're going to basically, no, the people have decided, we can't let them go back to the polls again. If they were fully confident in their case and in their cause, they'd go, okay, sure, we'll vote for it again, one more time. They know they'll lose because people have seen it. Now, yeah, the Conservatives won the election last time, and that could be theoretically seen as a referendum, but that was because people were tired of it. They just wanted it done. And I think that in hindsight, it will, once people have realized that they're not getting the benefits they were promised, and instead it looks far worse than it actually was. Because to me, Britain was a leader in the EU. They were the controlling check to France and Germany's power in Europe. Now that's gone. And now France and Germany can basically have a major say in how the EU is run. I think it'll become more federal. I think it'll be to the detriment of the smaller nations, where if Great Britain was there, they would have had the ability to defederalize the EU eventually by rallying the smaller nations to checking the power of countries like France and Germany, and to an extent Spain and Italy. But we shall see about that. But back to the point. We need accountability in government. Big time. The main reason people don't like paying taxes isn't so much about the idea of paying taxes, it's the fact that they feel like their money isn't being well spent. You go to Scandinavia, and they like paying taxes because they feel like that the money they're paying is being spent in a proper way. They see road improvements. They know how good their healthcare system is. They know how good their educational system is because they see it. They see the evidence of how their government is performing. Where here, we're constantly complaining about bad schools, bad roads, bad this, bad that, because we don't have the accountability in spending in our government. But instead of actually demanding that, we just say, well, let's cut taxes. Cut spending, cut taxes. But yet we still want better roads, we want better education, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason for that. It's not accidental. It's because we've allowed private enterprise have way too much influence on government policy. Now, I'm perfectly fine with private-public enterprises from time to time, as long as there's a lot of accountability and basically we can see what the hell's going on. When it becomes a problem is when you see issues where there's kickbacks, where there's graft, where there's obvious corruption, and, it's as plain as the nose on your face, basically. My biggest concern, and I think it should be for any taxpayer, is that when you pay your taxes, is that you're getting your bang for your buck, and we're not doing that. We demand to get our money's worth when we buy something from Walmart or from Amazon or whatnot. Should we not expect the same thing from our government? We should. The problem is there are people who want to take away government services so they can make money off of them. That's why you've seen so much about charter schools and all of that, because there are people who want to make money off of that. That's why there's such a vitriolic response to getting rid of private health care, because there's money to be made. And the fear is that people will like single-payer health care, like in Australia, like in Canada, like in England, like in other countries, like in every other industrialized country in the world except us. If we have Medicare for all, and it's there, and people can go to the doctor, not have to worry about a huge, gigantic bill, people healthier. And I've been saying this for a long time. If we ever were to get that, which I have my doubts we'll ever do get it, but if we were to get it, I guarantee you this: it would be a boon to business. Because guess what? Excuse me. Sorry, I did not mean to burp there. I hate my life sometimes. I hate this body sometimes. Jesus. Basically, it would save businesses money because they wouldn't have to pay so much in health insurance. And they could pay their employees more, theoretically speaking. I can go into why that businesses are making tons and tons of money, and yet they're complaining about the minimum wage going up. Speaking of that needs to happen. Not overnight, but I would say over the course of the next 6 to 8 years, we go from $7.50 to $15 an hour, or something close to that. You don't have to really look too far on the internet to find studies about how the minimum wage is performed compared to cost of living increases and productivity over the last 40 years. From the Second World War all the way to 1980, the minimum wage kept pace with cost of living and productivity pretty much. After 1980, coincidentally the year that Ronald Reagan won the presidency, wages effectively became stagnant. And I'm not just talking about minimum wage. I'm talking about pretty much everybody that's, unless you're making $30 an hour, you're not making as much as you probably would have been 40 years ago in the same job. That is a simple statement of fact. The job I have now didn't exist 40 years ago. But the job I had before at West Rock, I guarantee you that the job I had like it was 40 years ago, the person in that job had a better standard of living than I had, was able to bring home more money, and to